PayPal published an update to its AUP, acceptable use policy, that indicated that any PayPal user who was deemed to have been spreading misinformation would be fined $2,500 by the payments platform. Very quickly, PayPal issued a statement that claimed this was an error, that this policy was never intended to be implemented. We can discuss that. But we also have a lot of evidence that over the years, PayPal has, whether or not it's an explicit policy, done something like this to various outlets and individual users. And it's just another bit of financial censorship, as Zach said. And then we have a tweet here from David Marcus, formerly a high up in PayPal, saying that it is betraying its mission. So, yeah, we have these centralized services that are willing to take your money if it's politically convenient for them. And lots to discuss here. But Jen, you seem disgusted.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. I think this story highlights a lot of things for me. One is that so many people don't read the fine print. I personally get emails from PayPal every week talking about updates to their terms of service. And I'll be honest, I don't read them all the time. And this was very jarring to read. The apology for the confusing language just feels like such a cop-out. It read like, I'm sorry you realized what the term said. And so now we didn't really mean it because it was unlikely that we would have enacted it. But the fact is, we wanted to be able to enact it if we had to. But anyways, you've noticed. And so now we are sorry. And it's just, this whole thing has highlighted for me the conversation that we have so often on this show around CBDCs and financial censorship. I think people should be reading this story and thinking about, being censored for their thoughts and what they're saying, not only by private companies, but by governments and governments who have sway over private companies. And so, yes, David, you were right to read the disgust on my face. But Will, you look just as disgusted. So I'm going to pass it off to you.
That's just my resting face. No, they say that on Fridays, you should put the bad info out there because no one's going to be able to see it. But it doesn't really matter in the age of Twitter, right? When Elon Musk is tweeting at you for your poor policy decisions, and there's nowhere to hide, you're going to be found. And PayPal, of course, reversed policy on this. I do want to take a larger step back, though, and look at the financial picture. It's not that PayPal decided to do this. It's where everything is going, right? It's not just PayPal. PayPal is just very out there. People use a lot. People use Venmo. But guess what? This is coming to everybody. There's a lot of laws that have been enacted in the past 5 years on financial censorship. There's laws going back to the Patriot Act in the early 2000s about financial censorship. There's stuff going back to the 70s with banking acts about financial censorship. It's only becoming more progressive. And that progression tends to step on limited private users who do not want to have their names out there. But that is the way things are going. That's why PayPal is moving that direction. It was interesting to see that they pulled back after after Marcus went after him, after Elon went after him, after a few other Twitter users were like, hey, PayPal, we're not here for this. We're going to shut down our accounts. But I think this is where a lot of other money custodian users are going to be going, right? So this is why we care so much about privacy, why we care so much about Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, because cryptocurrencies enables a future where we might have some protections against overreaching officials and regulators. David, I'll throw it back up to you.
Yeah, definitely a welcome point regarding the broader trend. However, I wanted to point out that PayPal is individually facing consequences for having publicized this. Their stock is crashing this morning after the exchange over the weekend, down over 5% the last time I checked, and that's worse than several fintech ETFs and indexes around the world. So they're underperforming the rest of their category because they got caught kind of publicizing this. I also really quickly just want to emphasize that, this policy is actually something that PayPal already seems to be acting on. We reported several months ago about two news outlets called Mint Press and Consortium, which are legitimate news outlets that feature really quite celebrated American journalists, and they had thousands of dollars frozen by PayPal for reasons that have still been unexplained. So even though PayPal, quote unquote, reversed this statement, they actually do already behave this way. So it's not something that you can just rest easy about. Zach, you want to chime in with some last words here?
Yeah, this is the big. Yes, I do. Yes, this is the big bad boogeyman that crypto people have been preparing to go to war with all these years, right? Censorship resistant platforms, neutral platforms for the unimpeded flow of information and money. And that's the dream. Experiments like this quick little blip that popped up and was seemingly corrected, that's what it's all about. I mean, I think people who maintain that they want free speech, they want value neutral platforms for the transfer of money. And when you're working with the big PayPals of the world, or you're working with other entities that have opinions on what is good and what is bad, sometimes that can backfire. And I think what we're seeing here is some of the big picture around these neutral platforms and the prospects, the value of these platforms, right? So I think these conversations are super important to get out there. It's a little bit of histrionics on Twitter, of course, when we see such stuff like this. But in general, those core issues, I think they're certainly worth discussing. And we saw a little bit of discussion around them this weekend that we don't often see.